The crumbling code inside the courtroom chaos and the snitching that shook Lil Durk's circling. A packed Los Angeles federal courtroom, tension hung in the air like smoke before a fire. No one expected the eruption, but when it came, it was swift and violent. Jarius James Wilson, once a shadowy, trusted associate of Lil Durk, had just uttered a name that turned whispers into war cries. Durk, the moment Jam took the stand. It was more than testimony. It was a betrayal, or at least that's how it felt to those in the room who live and die by the street's unspoken laws. As Jam reportedly began linking Durk to a chilling murder-for-hire plot, all hell broke loose. Someone, believed to be connected to Durk's crew, vaulted from the gallery and attacked. Court officers scrambled, one even drawing a weapon. Lawyers ducked. Chaos reigned. But let's rewind. This wasn't just a courtroom fight. This was the unraveling of a code, a sacred one in street culture. Don't talk. Don't fold. Don't snitch. Once a soldier in silence, now stood as the face of cooperation. And here's the twist. He may have been wired up and feeding federal agents information for the past 2 years. Sources say Jam began cooperating. Almost immediately after his arrest on weapons charges, a quiet pivot from loyal foot soldier to key informant. From age 22 to 24, he allegedly wore a wire, recording conversations, collecting names. Painting a picture the feds had been trying to complete for years. And now, that image might show Lil Durk at the center of a web, one that prosecutors believe blends music, violence, and organized crime. Jam's testimony interrupted by the courtroom assault. Reportedly focused on a 2022 shooting, a retaliation tied to the death of Lil Capone's cousin. He began laying out how hotel rooms were booked, how firearms were moved, and how money allegedly flowed straight from Durk's inner circle to trigger men on the ground. Then, chaos. The courtroom shattered before he could even finish his account. Some say the attack was spontaneous. Others believe it was orchestrated, maybe even signaled by a glance from Durk's legal team. What's known is this. Jam was hauled out under armed protection and hasn't been seen publicly since. And what he didn't say in court, that may soon show up in sealed records. This case, volatile and far from over, has ignited fears and speculation across the Chicago rap scene. For years, people whispered that someone close to Durk was leaking information. Now, that fear has a name, Jam, and he might not be the only one flipping. Legal experts suggest this is only the beginning. The government appears poised to pursue a RICO-style case, treating Durk's label not just as a music outfit, but as a front for organized crime. That means the stakes aren't just high, they're historic to truly grasp what's at risk. You have to look deeper than the courtroom. This goes back decades. In 1993, Durk's father, Dante Banks Sr., was arrested in connection with an $8 million cocaine ring. A year later, he was sentenced to life. That moment didn't just take a man from his family, it shaped Lil Durk's entire worldview. He grew up with one rule burned into memory: never talk to the feds. He once said it plainly, "I hate rats." But now the very foundation he built his name on is cracking. The silence that once shielded him is breaking, not from enemies, but from brothers in arms. Jam's fall from loyalty to informant is more than just a story of betrayal. It's a signal. The street code, once ironclad, is being bent by pressure, prison time, and plea deals. And if Jam has more to say, and signs point to yes, the next chapter could hit even harder. The silence is gone. And what's coming might echo for years.
I don't have no clue if OTF Jam wore wire on Lil Durk. OTF DD is an informant.
Somebody named OTF Jam, they said they've been calling him a rat.
Man, you feed a nigga for 12 years, he come home with a wire?
Even Tay Capone weighed in on the rumors swirling around Jam's role in the case.
It have been in-house little weird shit going on with Jam. Jam been booked for a pipe, he'll disappear out the system, be back in the system.
This isn't just snitching. This is witness protection level fallout. We're talking about the kind of cooperation that has the feds assigning aliases and new zip codes. And what makes this whole situation even more explosive? The money trail at the heart of the government's case is one key accusation. Lil Durk allegedly handed Jam $50,000. What was once seen as a blessing, a token of loyalty or support, it's now being reframed in court as something far more sinister. A payoff, a reward, compensation for silence, Or worse, Jam reportedly got caught with a switch, a serious federal offense, and now, according to insiders, he's telling prosecutors that the $50,000 he received was directly tied to that charge. That kind of detail isn't coincidence. It's the kind of breadcrumb federal agents love. It connects dots. It builds narrative. It locks people in. And here's the part that's truly damning. The feds aren't bluffing anymore. Why don't you agree? To cooperate, you're not just signing papers, you're signing your fate. They expect you to get on that stand and repeat, word for word, what you gave them behind closed doors. If you don't, you're facing a life sentence. This is how the case against Durk is going from smoke to wildfire. Jam's decision to talk, whether it started with a wire or just a moment of desperation, has shattered the walls of silence. And yet, he wasn't the first to fold. The first domino to fall wasn't Jam, it was DD. And that's where the real story begins.
He is clearly named in the indictment as a co-conspirator. Okay, he is clearly one of the shooters on the scene, but when they actually talk about the crime, his name disappeared.
The walls are talking inside the federal case, closing in on Lil Durk. A certain kind of silence that feels like a setup, the calm before a courtroom storm. And that's exactly what played out when Jam took the stand. His testimony didn't just crack the case, it cracked the code of loyalty. The code of silence, and the ripple effect is now shaking the very foundation of Lil Durk's empire. According to insiders and court transcripts, another key figure, DD was allegedly one of the shooters. But when the crime shows up in federal paperwork, his name is nowhere to be found. Instead, he's cloaked under the label unnamed co-conspirator. That kind of erasure only happens for one reason. The government is shielding their asset. DD flipped, and the second he did, it sent a clear message. The gloves are off. And it's every man for himself. WAC 100 didn't mince words. If Durk doesn't get ahead of this, he's done. That's a heavy truth for someone who built his brand on never speaking, on letting his lyrics talk while he stayed silent. But now that silence might be the very thing that buries him. Because here's what makes this situation lethal. The people cooperating with prosecutors. Some of them aren't even close to Durk. They're not lifelong brothers or childhood friends. They're expendable soldiers, men with nothing to lose, staring down life sentences and seeing cooperation as their only exit strategy. They owe Durk nothing, and that's what makes them dangerous. According to Vlad TV and WAC, the federal case hinges on these testimonies. If even half of these alleged collaborators testify, the government's got enough ammo to hit Durk with a lifetime federal indictment. And if they all talk, this won't just be a case, it'll be a Rikowera collapse. Think Sammy, the Bull Energy, the mob informant who brought down John Gotti. That's the level of threat the prosecution is working with. Durk, at this point, isn't even being tied to the case by direct action, but through proximity. Vlad laid it out clean. You flew them in, your name's on the credit card, you covered the rooms, you were around. It's all it takes. If just one person says Durk gave the go-ahead, it's over. Doesn't matter if he didn't pull the trigger or send the text. What matters is if prosecutors can connect him to intent or facilitation. They're not chasing bars, they're chasing bodies. And that brings us back to the moment Jam testified. That courtroom melee wasn't just a reaction. It was a warning shot. Desperation in real time. Crumbling brotherhood trying to keep its walls from falling. Legal analysts say Durk's defense might now push to have Jam's testimony thrown out due to the courtroom being compromised. But the damage is already done. The government got what it needed. and some believe they allowed the chaos to unfold on purpose. As a way to prove just how far this circle is willing to go to silence someone, that opens the door to an even darker chapter. Witness intimidation enhancements. That means longer sentences for everyone involved, more pressure on those still holding out, and more incentive for the next person to flip before they become the next target. Jam's not hiding from the label anymore. He's not denying it. "Okay, I'm a rat," he allegedly said, almost daring the world to say something new. After so many rumors and accusations, he's no longer running. He's testifying. And while fans flood social media with free Durk posts and loyalty memes, there's an uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Durk might not beat this. Yes. Prosecutors did quietly remove paragraph 9 from the indictment, the one that claimed Durk ordered a hit via wired payment. But that doesn't mean they've dropped it. WAC 100 says the only reason it was pulled was because the witness testimony didn't quite line up yet. But now, with Jam's statements, it might finally stick. And there's another layer. Prosecutors have already added stalking resulting in death to the indictment, a charge typically used when a direct payment for a hit can't be proven. It still carries life in prison. So, Durk can't breathe easy. The case didn't weaken, it just evolved. The terrifying part. The jury doesn't care about platinum plaques or street codes. They care about sworn statements, credible timelines, and consistent stories. And if Jam DD or whoever flips next says Durk knew, or worse, greenlit any part of the violence, all the hits, all the headlines, all the loyalty won't mean a thing. And here's the cruel irony. Durk built his name on silence. Loyalty was his brand. But now, as his co-defendants chase plea deals and shorter bids, he's the last man standing in the shadows. Still silent, still holding to the code and the jury. They noticed that too. Before the blood hit the floor in that courtroom, the real damage had already been done. Jam didn't just break the code, he tore the whole playbook in half, already bleeding. The fall of a street legend, Jam didn't start bleeding in that courtroom. He'd already been bleeding long before. Not physically, but socially. Cut off, cast out, labeled, and, worst of all, exposed. For months, the whispers had been growing louder. In the streets of Chicago, people noticed the odd patterns. Jam gets picked up, then vanishes. No mugshots, no charges, no press. Then he reappears, quiet, jittery, different. Booked on a gun charge, disappears, then slides back into the system like nothing happened. In that world, there's only one explanation. You're working with the feds. So when Jam finally stepped into that courtroom and took the stand, the testimony wasn't the real shock. The shock was that he survived long enough to give it. Insiders say Jam had been watched long before his day in court. But it wasn't law enforcement doing the watching, it was his old circle. The people he once rode with, they had questions. They wanted answers. And by the time he raised his right hand to be sworn in, Jam wasn't part of F anymore. He was a target. That's what made the attack so chilling. It wasn't an outburst. Wasn't emotion. It was a message. From the moment Jam sat down, the courtroom felt heavy. Tense, every glance, every shift, every breath, it all carried weight. Then he began talking, quiet at first. Naming names, listing payments, travel dates, connections. He paused, and that's when someone leaped over the barrier. Chaos erupted. Security tackled the attacker. Jam was pulled from the room, reportedly with a cut near his eye. Whether it was a weapon, a ring, or bare knuckles, no one could say for sure. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was on purpose. The timing. The target. The message, don't talk. But it was too late. Jam already had. The seal was broken. The damage done. From gun charge to deal Macurso. How did it come to this? You have to go back months earlier, back to the interrogation room. That's where federal agents allegedly made their move. Jam was under pressure, facing a looming weapons charge. The feds knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't looking for the top guy. They were looking for someone connected just enough to know the story. And expendable enough, too. According to legal experts, it's textbook Fed play. Arrest someone low enough to squeeze, but close enough to hurt. And Jam. He didn't break, he bent. That's when the movement began. Cooperation, travel, depositions. Then the now infamous $50,000 blessing from Durk. What once looked like a flex of generosity now reads like a receipt. A receipt, the feds say, ties Durk directly to the plot. And the worst part? It was public. Durk himself had rapped about it, bragged even. That he gave Jam $50,000. Said it proudly. But now that money is being reinterpreted not as support, but as payment. And the feds, they're weaponizing the optics. Lyrics, social media, plane tickets, hotel rooms, associates, it's all being stitched together into a criminal timeline. A narrative where Durk didn't just know, he allegedly facilitated. They're saying his music business was a front, a pipeline for moving shooters under the guise of industry, and while one major charge, the alleged murder for hire payment, was removed from the indictment, others were added just as quickly, like stalking resulting in death. Sounds vague, right? But legally, it's lethal. It's the federal system's way of turning intent into a life sentence. When they can't prove a wire transfer for a hit, they prove everything else. One man who might save him, and one who can't speak Durk's best hope, may be his attorney, Drew Findling, the same powerhouse lawyer who cut amazing deals for YFN, Lucci, and NBA YoungBoy. If anyone can poke holes in the prosecution's web, it's Drew, but even he's limited, because Durk won't talk to fans. That's loyalty. That's honor. That's Durk being Durk. But to a jury, silence screams guilt. Legally, the defendant has the right not to testify. But there's an unspoken reality in every courtroom. If you don't speak for yourself, the jury assumes you have something to hide. Doesn't help that prosecutors are stacking imagery chains, lyrics, tattoos, even Durk's music videos now introduced as evidence, a movement, a brand, a legacy. Now, a federal exhibit. The cultural collapse. So, where does this leave Durk? ALONEF. Is unraveling, co-defendants are flipping, timelines are converging, testimonies are aligning. Bloggers like King Eula are calling it what it is. Rat, rat, rat. And Jam, he's not denying it anymore. He said it. Okay, I'm a rat. And then he acted like it. Right now, the only thing that can save Durk is a total collapse in the prosecution's narrative. Someone recanting. It's a key witness. Folding, a major contradiction. But the odds, slim. Because when the feds bring charges like these, they don't do it unless the case is already locked in. And now, thanks to Jam, they've got the one thing they needed most. Someone on the inside. A genre on trial. Let's not be naive. This isn't just about one man's trial. This is about the collapse of an era. Drill music. Chicago street rap. The culture of it's not just under attack, it's being dismantled in federal court, in real time. Labels are pulling back. Blogs are deleting posts. DJs won't spin new records. Promoters are canceling shows. And it's not because of guilt or innocence, it's because of optics. $50,000 blessing used in hit. Snitch takes the stand, attacked in court. Lyrics cited as criminal evidence. No brand wants to be next to that. Not even Durk's. And the hardest truth. Durk was the face of modern drill. He made it mainstream. He gave features too. New artists. He brought blocks to the charts. But now, the same F-chain that gave you credibility might get you subpoenaed. Because the feds aren't just watching Durk, they're watching the structure, the features, the flights, the bookings, the payments. They want another YSL-style sweep. And they're off to a terrifyingly strong start. Only this time, F isn't standing tall. They're folding, everything is shifting, and so is the legacy stories are changing. Allegiances are crumbling. Even the blogs once silent are saying it out loud. If somebody says Durk's name, that's all it's going to take. Someone is talking. Someone from F is flipping. And once those whispers become courtroom testimony, Durk's entire brand becomes radioactive. Let's be real, Durk has always worn his pain in his music. Losing D. Thang, losing King Von, losing his father to the feds. But now, he might lose everything else, because even if he walks free, and that's still a massive if, he's walking back into a world where his name no longer means power, it means paranoia. Where artists ask themselves, can I afford to stand next to Durk anymore? Is that cosign still a blessing or a liability? And if he doesn't walk free, Chicago loses more than a rapper. They lose a pipeline. Durk isn't just a charting artist. He's a mentor, a cosigner, a gatekeeper. He opened doors for dozens of kids to escape the trap, literally and musically. He made drill commercial. He made the streets poetic. He gave the city its soundtrack. But if he falls, if he gets locked up, if F collapses, then the culture, the city, the movement might not recover, because when you strip away the music and leave behind only indictments, the message to the next generation becomes painfully clear. Don't rap, don't rise. All ends the same anyway. And make no mistake, this isn't Durk's first brush with the law. But it's his most dangerous. What's different now? Witness cooperation. That's what the feds never had before. But now, they might have Jam, they might have others. And the prosecution's strategy is crystal clear. Build a mountain of truth. Even if each stone is chipped, cracked, or incomplete. They just need enough voices to say, Durk knew. Not prove it beyond a shadow. Just paint the picture. Let Rico do the rest. That's how GS9 fell. That's how Young Thug got stuck. And that's how this might end too. But here's the twist. There's still one wild card left. Durk himself. Because while everyone else testifies, he stays silent while they point fingers, keeps his hands in his pockets. While the feds build a case, he's still in the studio, still crafting bars that double as emotional confessions and potential evidence. And that might be the final irony. The very music that made him a star might be what sends him away. Because even though the court struck lyrics from the official indictment once, that doesn't mean they're not listening. The fans are listening. The feds are listening. And so is the future. So the only question left is this. Can drill survive without Durk? Can the label, the brand, the movement live on if its face, its founder, and its flame goes silent? Or does it all? The music, the money, the legacy die with the next testimony. 'Cause at this point, it's no longer about beats or bars. It's about survival. And survival doesn't favor the silent.